Welcome to today's episode of 60 Minutes, where we will look into yesterday's American dream and see how it has progressed to the illusion of the American dream that we have today. When our country was being formed, our idea of the American dream was quite mutual, with everybody wanting to get a plot of land and raise a family. In this day and age, people generally live lives of sin and are not focusing on what is truly important in life. This is the illusion that has been put out there, mainly by the media. Everyone wants to live their lives like in the adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Huck lives a life away from society on a raft, and he explains that you feel mighty free and easy and comfortable on a raft. But because of this, Huck is just running away from the issue of society and living away from it. Huck is similar to modern Americans because they both try to run away from their problems. But rather than running away from society like Huck, they run towards society and accept the sinful ways. And rather than facing their problems as a group, they face them as individuals. This also reminds me of Waldo Emerson, who said that nothing can bring you peace but yourself. He was once again a man who thought to live a life of self-reliance. Today we'll be talking to everyday bloggers Frederick and Shane in order to clarify our predictions. So tell me, Shane, you believe America has changed, correct? Well, of course. Alright then, so do you feel that it's changed for better or for worse? Because I know in your article you focus more on how the music industry has been changing over the years. Well, unfortunately I feel that it's changed for the worse, just based off the chart that I made a couple years ago on my blog, where the highest bars with the questionable content are the newest three groups, with the exception of the 1965 group in the violence category, which is most likely just due to the fact that during that time frame there was the Vietnam War and all the civil rights movements. Another thing is that I wrote that article about 4 years ago, and within these past 4 years the music industry has changed so much. Like, here, I'll give you an example. So, the song on top of the charts right now is Old Town Road by Lil Nas, and it has millions of streams and millions of downloads, and the group of people listening to these kinds of songs are usually under 20 years old, which is like the age group of like teenagers and tweens. And so, and one of the lines is, "Can't nobody tell me nothing, you can't tell me nothing," and he keeps saying that over and over and over, and they pretty much just tell kids that they don't need to listen to anyone, which would include their parents, which just isn't exactly a good example. And then one of the next verses goes, "Lean all in my bladder, cheated on my baby, you can go and ask her, my life is a movie, bull riding and boobies, cowboy hat from Gucci," and it's just like a big mess. So in these lines it talks about drugs, expensive clothing, disrespecting women, and explains how his life is a movie, which implies that he is living the life for the American dream, so-called. And it's just like, why is that what people are seeing the dream is now, you know? Like, I feel like the dream of expensive stuff, drugs, and disrespecting women is more of an illusion, or at least an obstacle to a real American dream. Thank you so much for your insight, Shane, and your opinions, and we really thank you for coming out to the show today. So now we're going to bring out Frederick, another American blogger. Hello, Frederick. It's nice to have you on the show. So what are your thoughts on all these topics? I totally agree with what Shane was saying, but I do have some thoughts to add that have to do with a book that I read a few years ago called Catch-22. This book also portrays a world of chaos and confusion where there is no escape. They are forever entrapped in a world of sin and death. I remember one of the lines where Arfie was in a place to sin and have sex with an intoxicated woman, and when he didn't, he was ridiculed. Yossarian yells at him saying, "You bastard, why the hell didn't you give her to one of us if you didn't want her?" In this scene you can really see the social pressure of taking advantage of women. Alright, so now I want to get into the thoughts that I shared in my article. So I feel that social media has affected the American dream a lot more than we should have let it, and every time someone signs into social media and sees other people living their lives, we immediately compare it to our own lives self-consciously, and that takes away small bits and pieces away from our self-esteem and our own personal image of ourselves. So social media is a trap, because by the time you catch up on all the posts, you've already got new ones at the top of your feed. and therefore acting as a constant reminder and serves as reinforcement of what your life is missing, therefore heightening your internal expectations of your own life. I want people to enjoy all the cool benefits of social media has to offer, but I also want them to be aware of how it can play with your mind. My parents have always told me to compare myself to no one, and if we can all remember to do that, we can achieve our own American dream. With that on topic, what do you believe the American story or dream is? I feel that it's a combination of things. There's the illusion of the American story going around, that we have to go out and live the life of the party, but this is not what we should be moving toward, but away from. I believe that the American story should be what David Brooks believes it should be, when he says that America is failing its future and we need to rally each other around to build the families, communities, schools, and training systems and other structures to make sure that the next generation surpasses this one. I feel that this is the American dream, what the American dream should be. If we strive to always pave a path brighter for the next generation, we won't be wasting our time with worldly desires. And everyone seems to be fighting their own fights and working through their own issues on their own. And everyone is living their own individual lives. And in Catch-22, this is also made present by Yossarian when he explains to Clevenger, the enemy is anybody who is going to get you killed, no matter which side he's on. So this goes along with the idea that even in literature, everyone is living individually, and this just further proves Brooks' idea of the American story, where we need to get a series of unifying projects in order to make national progression, together as one community at large and not as individuals. Alright, so I know this is a little bit of a questionable topic, but before we call this interview over, I want to know how you think that these new sinful ways have affected the lives of religious people. Yeah, I believe that with our sinful society, it is hard for a religious person to live, but like in Catch-22, you have to recognize your sin and actually make a change in your life to combat it, such as when Yossarian chooses to leave his squadron when making a deal with Colonel Cathcart and Colonel Corn in order to get out of there. But he decides that that is not the right way of getting out, so he decides to stay because he has a flashback of Snowden's death, and realizes that he could not let them die like Snowden. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been more than a pleasure to have on the show. Until next time.